Kyros is one of those leaders that people just can't seem to figure out or break. And above all else, his color combination with this ability given to him all the more makes it kind of a tough deck to create. However, I alone have figured out the method to create the only true accurate way of playing and building Kyros. And with that, my fellow Marines, I present to you the full deck list and summary for this video. Alright, so what's poppin', my fellow Marines? Your boy Kaiju has finally decided to make the official Kyros deck list from EB01, which isn't actually that much different from my current OP07 deck list. Now, hold on. Before you guys say anything, hear me out. As of right now, I actually don't have a finalized build for OP07 Kyros list because, you know, I keep changing up the ratios and stuff. So it doesn't really make sense for me to give you a list that isn't finished, right? Like, because if I give you a list now, it's just not going to be accurate to what I'm going to have it in a couple days, couple weeks, because I'm still trying to finalize it. So with that being said, that list for OP07 is like 90% done. Hopefully when I have the OP07 list finished towards the end of this month, I'll actually have it uploaded. It's going to be a full breakdown, full detail. You best believe that bitch is probably going to be fucking, I don't know, close to like an hour. Like, you know me, I always like to go in depth about my shit, but this is going to be just a quick, brief summary of the EB01 list, which once again, it's already very close enough to my current OP07 list. So if you were to kind of take ideas or copy this deck list, your deck list would already be pretty close to mine, and you would be feel free to like add any of the new cards we got in set 7 and kind of just go from there. But yeah, this version of Kyros is actually going to be completely different than most of the ones that you've actually seen on YouTube or other deck lists as well. Some people like to do the Navy build or the Dressrosa. I'm not even doing either. Fuck that. That is incorrect. Fuck that. This version, I'm just going to call Value Kyros, or maybe you want to call this Kyros Kyros because it's somewhat uniquely different. And I say somewhat because there's still going to be key cards, of course, because it's Kyros, but in terms of the style, because it's not Navy and not Dressrosa, that's what's going to make it different. So yeah. Okay, so let's start off with the obvious, the Kyros theorem. So this leader is obviously a black and yellow leader that is played out to be a pop control deck. In my opinion, any other strategy will not be as sufficient as this one. This leader mainly gets its strength from the ability to KO a zero cost character for free by revealing the top life of your life pile. So the deck has to play under the zero cost rule. If there's like a 4 cost on the board, just give it a -4 and it's done. If there's 5 costs on board, you give it a -5 and it's dead. Unlike Sakazuki, where it can remove a 2 cost, or you just need to be like 2 under. In this case, you need to be at exactly 0. Then you'll have to find ways to make your face up top life put back face down. Or you could just kind of simply just take life, to be honest. I'll go way more in depth once again for my set 7 deck list for Kyros. So this is just kind of like a quick showcase or like a summary to kind of show everybody like, hey, this is how I built my Kyros in EB01, and it's probably not going to be that much different than set 7. So it's going to kind of prepare you guys for what I got cooking up. First up, we have ourselves 4 of the 4 cost Kuzans. This right here is actually the main engine of the deck that allows you the free -4 while swinging if they don't remove this card. And it gives you a free draw as well on summon. So Kyros actually can't function at all without Kuzan. So the least amount you could put is 3, and the most of course is 4. This is one of those cards that's actually your best 4-don play for your turn 2. Even if they remove this card, you still get that extra draw, and if they don't remove it, you get a free -4. It kind of puts in your opponents in this weird connect 4 situation where you kind of win either way, if that kind of makes sense. This card overall is extremely powerful, and if the player knows how to use it, then it's even better. Then we have the other engine of the deck, 4 of the 4 cost Laboons. This card is Kuzan's on demand since the effect is active main. You can actually instantly get yourself a -4. And just like Kuzan, if they don't get rid of this card, it will continuously get you a -4 infinitely. And another plus is the fact that this card is a 1k counter, which kind of helps out your hand to be not so clunky and brick. You can kind of get away with pitching this as a counter since you'll have ways to bring it back anyways. But other than that, you have to run Laboon. If you don't, your Kyros leader is going to be significantly weaker. Yeah, so having both Kuzan and Laboon stick on the board and not just an on-play -4 will help you win the games in the long run. Since certain decks that aren't black won't be able to remove this as easily and will give you an insane amount of advantage when it just sticks. Next, we got 3 of the 4 cost Rebecca. This card not being type locked and essentially lets you describe anything black will always be a reason it's a staple in just about any black deck for the most part, except like maybe one. But for this deck, it does the job pretty well. It gets you a card from the grave, lets you summon something from hand, and it's a blocker and a 1k counter. I think everybody knows how good this card is, so it doesn't really need much explanation. Then we have 3 of the 3 cost Hina. This card pretty much is your other source of -4 in the deck. This one is on play and with a cheaper cost of 3 Dawn instead of 4. I would say other than it being a perfect target to summon from hand for Rebecca, this card still shits out a lot of cost reduction, so I'll always have a place in the deck. Then we have 3 of the 5 cost Sabos. This card is always good in a meta where certain decks have KO potential, and the main reason why this card is used in this deck is to cycle through your bricks or help find your pieces. This deck actually relies on seeing certain cards that if you don't see it, your matchups are actually going to be pretty rough. I'd also say that it does need the top end specifically in order to function as a powerful late game leader. So Sabo having the ability to dig into your deck is always needed. Then we have 3 of the 2 cost Sanjis. This card, besides being a 2k counter, is actually one of your options to take a face up life and into your hand while you replace it from your deck. So not only is it a +1 for the draw power, but it makes it so your face up life is basically being put face down. Once again, another card that if they don't get rid of, you'll just constantly replace your life and get a free +1 out of it as well. So knowing when to summon and use this card is key for just matchups, but also as a Kyros player. Then we have 3 of the 2 cost Yori. This card also acts as a perfect 2k counter that has value being in the grave. Of course, this is a black and yellow deck, so running Gecko Moria is pretty obvious, but being able to summon this card from Gecko Moria, allowing you to take up a face up life and put something else in, pretty much plays into the Kyros strategy. We also have 3 of the 2 cost Viola, a card that is a must in any Kyros build no matter the strategy or style. This card being a blocker for defense that can get you an instant life manipulation is pretty good. I can either flip all my face up life face down or check my opponent's life and make sure all the good cards or bad cards are in proper order to my benefit. It's insanely strong into yellow decks and good into any deck that needs to see a key card, in which case I kind of just put that bitch to the bottom so they never see it. Then lastly, for the 2k counters, we have 2 of the 5 cost T-Bone. This card, thanks to both Rebecca and Gecko, you have many opportunities to grab this 2k counter from the grave to use it again. Honestly, that's just about the main purpose of this card. I kind of choose this specific black 2k counter at the time because I actually had situations where I could summon this card to KO something up to like a 5 or 6 cost, assuming I was able to get a -4 cost out before summoning this. But either way, I definitely use this card to summon sometimes, and it did come in clutch when I needed it. So having versatility in your 2k counters and the ability to recycle it will help this deck in the long run, trust me. Then we have 3 of the 3 cost Brook. This card is interesting and offers some cool interaction between your Rebecca play or your late game plays as well. I think this card having a nice 1k counter and having an on play and one swinging option really gives more pressure to your board than most people think. If you have constant cost reduction teaming up with constant KO, if they somehow don't deal with this board even just for 1 turn, it can get really ugly for them. So I love this card when I can pull it off, but otherwise it's just a nice value card in general for the deck. Then we have the utility spells. 3 of the 1 cost Ice Age. Ice Age for sure is somewhat of a must in almost any black deck besides probably Luffy. Ice Age having the ability to reduce -5 for the cost of just 1 Dawn is actually pretty stupid value. You can just use this card to reduce a 5 cost to 0. Then use Kyros' leader ability to KO that 5 drop. So being able to kill a 5 drop with just the cost of 1 Dawn thanks to Kyros is no fucking joke. So Ice Age is definitely a must. Then we have 3 of the 2 cost Buzzcut Mochi. This card is actually a spicy tech. I've never seen her used in any deck or gameplay as of now that I know of, until I changed that myself, of course. This card is the answer to one of your worst matchups being red purple log. So long as you have less life than your opponent, you'll have the ability to KO 4 costs or less with a price of just 2. So that alone gives you a turn where you can KO something with Kyros, then KO something with Buzzcut Mochi. That right there becomes a double KO. And then there's actually some cases where you can pull off another double KO the next turn if you have another Buzzcut Mochi. But besides all that, it's my spicy set got through and help with certain matchups. Then we have 3 of the 0 cost spell. This card is pretty good for a deck like this where there's a decent amount of dead cards in your deck, and plenty of decks and characters will often swing 7 into your board or face, which honestly gives the 0 cost spell a lot of counterplay. So I like this card for giving more defense when I need it, but also having that chance to be in the last life to use this trigger. That trigger effect does happen a lot more than people think. Even if I put it at just like a 3 ratio, I'd say at least like a third of my games I've had this trigger come up as my last life. So yeah, either I'm really lucky or the math is mathing. Then we have the high drops and boss monsters. First we have 3 of the 8 drop Gecko. This card is pretty good for the deck. We have plenty of 4 cost options and plenty of 2 cost targets as well to help with life. And the 4 drops for cost reduction or defense pretty much. So Gecko definitely has a home in this deck and will always be a strong late game tempo to pretty much push your opponents off you for a turn or so. Then we have 3 of the 10 drop Kuzan. I definitely think this deck actually relies on 10 drop a lot more than people realize. That in my opinion, this deck needs to run Kuzan and it just has to. In my newest build for OPO7, I actually run 4 10 drops, but for this EB01 build, I just ran 3. Either way, this card is actually the main boss monster that turns this deck into an extremely powerful threat. That if the opponent can't get rid of this dude, it's probably too late for your opponent. Then for the last piece of the puzzle, we got 4 of the 9 drop Yamatos. Yeah, this card allows Kyros to live a lot longer than he should, and being able to drop a big body that gives you 1 life and KOs a body at the same time is actually a huge tempo advantage. Plenty of people don't even realize that the powerhouse combination between Yamato and Kuzan have. Just about like a majority of players forget that Yamato can KO things with cost reduction added. In other words, if both life, let's say, is a total of 4. and you have Kuzan -5. That lets Yamato reach a 9 drop and pretty much KO that piece of shit. I can't tell you how many times at regionals or locals that people forget that Yamato plus Kuzan is a scary combo and can achieve a heavy late game advantage. Now that's pretty much going to wrap up the deck list that I had for the EB01, or the regionals that I went to. But yeah, the finalized list before OP07, and then I just added a bunch of cards and tweaked the ratios. Now I don't want to go too much in detail just yet, since I have a lot that I want to cover for my next OP07 deck list for Kyros. I'm talking matchups, percentage, playstyle, combos, all sorts of fucking stats and shit that I want to go super in depth with. This video is pretty much just a quick summary for the people curious what my build was in comparison, and can kind of get a bit of inspiration as well. But don't worry, sometime this month I'll have a complete dissection for my Kyros deck list soon, so stay tuned for that when it drops. For those looking to try out and have any questions regarding this deck, hey, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll answer them easily. But yeah, that's the deck list. Hope you guys like it, and yeah, stay tuned for the next video. I appreciate you guys. You guys take it easy. Peace.